Welcome back to Join the Mahdi. And as always, I'm Ardijan and Mahdi.
And I'm Alexandra Al-Mahdi.
So today we wanted to basically showcase the latest issue of the Divine Just State magazine. This is the June 2025 issue called The Third Temple. And on the right side, you'll find the words, "Let my people go," Abu Sadiq's historic speech on the Middle East. So if anybody would love to have this issue on hand, you can go to our store at the AhmadiReligion.org. And I believe that it's about £7.
Yeah.
All of the cost for it is for the printing, and we don't profit at all from the price of the book. This all goes to the printing costs and the shipping costs. So whoever would like to have a copy of this issue can more than happily go to our site and print it out. Yeah. And for those who can't afford it for whatever reason, we also have the PDF version also readily available, so you guys can delve into this issue. And the issue is jam-packed with a lot of information, great stories, and great news outlets from our own end about this dawah and about this call.
Yeah, so all of the articles in the magazine, they're written by the Ansar. And I think this is like the second printed issue. And
yeah, it's the second one.
It's really amazing. Like, it's for sure, it's worth owning. It's printed extremely nicely, and it's got like some incredible articles in here. So yeah, we're going to go through and look over the topics which are covered, because
all right, cool.
Yeah, they're very interesting ones.
Yeah, and I guess the first one that kind of goes in is writing an article that Waqar wrote, Brother Waqar. It's called Abdullah Hashim's historic speech on the Middle East. So that was something, it was a beautiful read, because he really talks about how the covenants were broken, or the covenant in the past was broken, and how Abu Sadiq is now calling out to Netanyahu to let his people go. Yeah,
he's talking, if we can bring up the first slide, oh no, there should be one before that. So yeah, this, if not, don't worry. But yeah, so this is the article where he's talking about the historical speech that Abu Sadiq, from whom's peace, he made recently on Palestine. So yeah, where he spoke to Netanyahu and he said, "Let my people go," and he told the Palestinian people that they should leave, where they are, that, no ground is, no earth, is worth their lives. Their lives are more important. And this is something which the Arab leaders in the world today who are existing, is something that they would never tell them. They're telling them to risk their own lives for a cause that they don't even help them with, which is, for sure, terrible. And the fact that, all of the Jews and the Arabs in the world today, they're all coming from Abraham. They're all children of Abraham, and the ultimate ending, which would be good for them, is peace. Peace between them. This conflict at the end of the day is started by leaders who were not appointed by God. And there really is no need for it. The true religion, the true path, but we believe in freedom of religion, and that people can follow whatever religion they choose to, and for sure humanity is more important than religion. This is what the man who is appointed by God is telling the people today. So Abu Sadiq, from whom his peace, he speaks about this. He speaks about, like you said, the covenant between the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, the covenant that he brought with the Muslims, and how that covenant was broken when the people, they rejected the successors of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, which has caused, this situation that the Muslim lands are in now. It's caused these conflicts, and caused this suffering. And, the way that we can bring ourselves out of a place of suffering is to accept the leader that God appointed.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, it's an amazing article, and it's a very important topic today.
Yeah, it is.
The people have been wondering how we can ever achieve peace in the Middle East for such a long time, and Abu Sadiq, from whose peace, is the one who is going to be able to achieve that, when he is the actual leader that people have accepted in that region. Yeah,
and it's insane, especially with what's happening on the ground now between the people of Israel and Iran. And in the segment that Waqar also wrote, there's even a part of it where it says, "Get involved," with a big megaphone. And it says over here, "Reach out to your local newspapers and urge them to report on Abu Sadiq's proposed solution to the conflict. Share his speech to relevant Middle Eastern Facebook groups, Instagram pages, and other social media platforms to help spread awareness." So hopefully the people out there can reach out to other news outlets out there and spread the word about the solution that Abu Saik has for the people of Palestine. And, Sister Lena, right after that, she has her own little segment there, and it's called Voice of a Palestinian by Lena.
Yeah.
And she says something really touching here. She says, as a Palestinian herself, and this is in the middle of her writing, as a Palestinian, I feel an immense pride and gratitude that God and the Mahdi Abu-Sadiq have granted the people of Palestine, especially the people of Gaza, a great opportunity to be the first citizens of the divine just state, the Muhammadan Mahdiist state, led by a caliph from the lineage of Hashim, meaning Beni Hashim, as promised by the Prophet. And then she goes on to say at the very end, I don't want to spoil all that she wrote. I would love that the people take this edition themselves and read into it. But she also says that this is my call to my people. Only believe and obey, and you will see nothing but good. As for me, I have left everything behind and will never look back. I will continue my journey with Abu Sadiq until the very end. So those are amazing, beautiful words from a Palestinian who is supporting Abu Sadiq, and she is asking her people and imploring her people to basically join and to believe and to obey him, because in that is their solution.
Exactly, yeah. And she's telling them to go ahead with what Abu Sadiq, from whom's peace, is telling them to do. She says in one part, leave this afflicted land and God will compensate you with something better.
Exactly.
Because if we follow God, if we take that step towards God, God is going to take 10 steps towards us. And if we put everything in God's hands, then we will see God's hand in everything that we do. And this is the point. So there's no point in suffering for a piece of land. At the end of the day, wherever we are, as long as we're with Abu Sadiq, as long as we're with the Holy Spirit, that is the Holy Land. That is the holiest of holies, and we will have a divine just state wherever that is. Abu Sadiq, from whom's peace, said even if it's in Antarctica, God would make it good for us. He would make it an amazing place to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the next part is also there's a cool little illustration by Brother Miznan, who is pretty much like a painter or like an artist in our community, and he even made us like a small little sketch of Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's surrounded by these different plagues, the frogs and the locusts, kind of mirroring the biblical time when Moses came to Pharaoh saying, "Let my people go," and when he didn't let the people go, he was infested by these plagues. And subhanAllah, actually, it's funny how when Abu Sadiq said to Benjamin Netanyahu, "Let my people go," what do we find? We find that just as it was in the time of Pharaoh, where Pharaoh's kingdom was suddenly being bombarded by outside forces like frogs and locusts and flies, and the cattle were dying and destruction was happening in his kingdom, we find that now today it's the same thing, where Abu Sadiq, who's the Moses of this time, the archetype of Moses, is telling the archetype of Pharaoh, "Let my people go." And the same thing is now playing out, where you could even say that plagues right now are happening to the Israeli people in the form of the wars that are commencing and the rockets and the fires that are happening. And this is something we don't want for the people, but this is something that is happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And the next article is about, it's called the new footage emerges of the extremist violence in Bangladesh. It's by Sister Caroline, and this is, it's a very disturbing story, actually. One of the believers in Bangladesh who was spreading the dawah, he just basically got taken from his home by a mob of extremists who were identified as imams and followers from his local mosque. And this, is a culmination of the ongoing harassment and intimidation that him and the other believers in the Ahmadi religion of peace and light have been subjected to in Bangladesh. So this is very disturbing. He was basically abducted, and the footage of him being abducted was shared on Facebook. He was also recently attacked by a violent mob in Bangladesh. So this guy has been through like an extreme amount of hardship and pain, through his efforts to spread the dawah. But God bless him, he's a hero.
Luckily he's safe now. But no one has to go through what he went through. And when he was going through what he went through, he was actually smiling, even though the people were beating him and dragging him through the streets. And I applaud him for that, because that just shows the amount of faith that he expected so much good from God, that he saw that his being arrested and kidnapped was actually a blessing from God, and he saw it as a blessing from God for the movement of the Qa'im.
Yeah.
So I really applaud him, and I really commend him for his bravery. And the other Ansars out there, because even in the article, there's even people in Russia. A believer got arrested in Moscow for talking about the call.
Yeah, so this section is about, you know, how the believers have been persecuted, you know, simply for spreading the religion. And the same thing happened in Iran, unfortunately. It says the headline is another believer vanishes in Iran. And so, yeah, an Afghan citizen has been basically arrested in Iran and vanished, you know, who was just a believer in the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. He wasn't doing anything else. But unfortunately, this has kind of like become a repetitive story in Iran, where the believers are being rounded up and arrested and treated horrifically. You know, they've had like extremely awful things done to them. And like you said, yeah, in Russia, another believer who was actually from an Azeri background, she was just distributing flyers in Red Square in Moscow, and she was arrested for that, you know. So it's very similar pattern, you know, what the believers are doing. They're either talking about the religion, or they're putting up posters, or they're giving out flyers, you know, which is an extremely legal act, you know, in any country that believes in freedom of religion or upholds the values of freedom of religion. But what we see, you know, is that the believers in the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, they're becoming more and more persecuted. You know, we're seeing this anger and this hatred towards the believers, you know, for no reason. You know, it's just a peaceful religion. We believe in peace. We believe in humanity first. So yeah, this is extremely sad. We also have a story about
a sister in Morocco, 35-year-old sister with kids. She was arrested while she was live on TikTok.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, imagine you're at the comfort of your own home and you're just talking about the religion, and suddenly the police come and they arrest you. Yeah. Because you're talking about it on TikTok live. I mean, that is insanity. That is craziness. And I think, it's just clear that no matter if you're in your home or you're in the streets, either way, the people want to hunt us down. They want to take us in, and people wish us harm. Yeah. And this dawah for sure is growing at a great rate, and people are finding out more about us. And that very first picture that we had up on the screen with Sister Hadil putting up the reward, or holding up the reward. We can go into that now, where basically it says here, Abdullah Hashim Abul Sadiq basically wins the Best International Book Award of 2025. This happened in Turin, Italy. So that's the brighter side of the news from this article. Even though all this persecution took place because of the Goal of the Wise is recognized internationally at the world's second largest book fair to be one of the best books, and is the best book of 2025. So I thought that was extraordinary.
Yeah, it's true. But before we move on, I want to just say one thing about these other few articles, because these articles are just like a small cross-section of what's going on with the believers around the world, and I think it's really inspirational how, the believers, despite all of this, they're still going out, they're still being extremely brave. They're still stopping at nothing in order to spread the message. And, we live in a world right now which is, a world which is ruled by Iblis. It's ruled by Satan, and there are many people who are following in his footsteps, who are displaying extremely similar behavior to Iblis, to the Imam at the time. And yeah, this is a shame, but the believers, they're clearly not stopping at anything, and the rise right now is unstoppable. The Mahdi's revolution is taking off. And yeah, for sure, this is something which it's spreading like wildfire, regardless of what people are doing to try and prevent that. And yes, Abu Sadiq from whose PC won the Best International Book Award in Turin Book Fair for the Goal of the Wise, which was an amazing achievement. And we can see these images here of Sister Hadil collecting the award on his behalf. And yeah, this was it was a pivotal moment basically when the book won this award. It was a big recognition, which is extremely well deserved, because this book has been it has changed so many people's lives. So for sure, and it is the best book. It is the book of the best international book. It's the best international book that's ever been written. For sure, it's the most important book that's ever been written. And everyone should go and read it. It's a completely life-changing book. It was called a transcendent gospel for apocalyptic times, and absolutely unputdownable. These are the reviews. Yeah.
Yeah, and many people are interested, including professors and people of academic circles. They want to learn more about this religion. You know, in the very next page, we find that, you know, there's another segment written by Sister Laura. You know, Sister Laura, she wrote this piece where it basically says as a title, "The Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light at a Conference at the University of Exeter." I believe it's
Exeter,
pronounced.
yeah.
Exeter. So yeah, that's really cool how, you know, other universities are finding out about us and they want to hear about us and they want to learn more about us.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have another really, really important article up next, which if we can go to the next slide.
Debunking the 5 biggest misconceptions about Abdullah Hashim's viral new Pope speech. So yeah, that is a very, very interesting article because, yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions regarding the speech of Abu Sadiq from his peace, such as, and I guess we could just go over them without giving too much detail, so this way people can read into it. But the first one is this idea that people thought that Abu Sadiq was the Antichrist, which clearly he isn't.
Yeah, so let's just bring up the slide. So the slide should be under debunking the 5 biggest misconceptions about Abdullah Hashim's viral new Pope speech. So if we can bring up the slide for that article. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and then we have the second part where it says, he cannot be the messenger of Jesus. There will be no messengers after Jesus. And obviously over here, the writer uses references from the Bible to debunk this myth and misconception. And the third one is anyone who writes a new gospel is cursed. And since we don't believe in Paul, we don't take this saying from Paul because Paul was the one who narrated this basically. Number 4 is messengers don't publicly declare themselves. This is absolutely false because Jesus declared himself publicly.
Yeah,
and number 5 is we need the spirit of discernment to determine the truth, and this is just a big flat out lie, and it has been debunked. So yeah, that's interesting. It's a very interesting and powerful segment that I think people need to read into, especially if they're Christians coming across this call.
Exactly. And there's a side note from Brother Una who says, you know, he's talking about the miracles, you know, because the miracles are a topic which comes up a lot. You know, people say, okay, well, miracles should prove on whether or not someone is appointed by God, you know, and that's for sure not the case. You know, miracles, they haven't been used to prove the men who are appointed by God. They've always been used to strengthen the faith of people who already have faith. And actually, you know, disbelievers would always find reasons to rationalize and explain away those miracles when they did see them. So
yeah, exactly.
They're not a criteria that we should use.
Yeah, it's not a proof at all. It doesn't help anybody. And actually, I think this idea of it being a criteria actually causes more harm than good, because there are a bunch of great miracle workers out there that actually deceive people, although they're able to perform seemingly great feats.
Antichrist can perform miracles.
The Antichrist can perform miracles, and actually there are even some circles of people that deceive people through works of miracles and through works of healing, and they ended up taking advantage of their adherents. So I think using a miracle as a criteria, it causes more harm than good, and actually the Bible kind of alludes to being aware of people who are able to perform miracles. It's not something that is a main criteria to understand if someone's appointed by God or not.
Yeah, and the next section we have is called In the Press. If we can bring up that slide. So this is just showing all of the articles, the external articles which have been written about the Ahmadi religion of peace and light and Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim, from whom is peace. So
everyone's writing about us basically, guys.
There's been in Abu Sadiq, from whose peace, since his speech went viral. He's been in the news a lot. So there's one from Israel 365 News talking about the emergence of Abu Sadiq, from whom is peace, and who he is. There's one called the Skeptical Inquirer, asking, is Abdullah Hashim the biblical Antichrist? There's one from La Tribuna, and another one in a Lebanese newspaper, but it's called An Nahar. This is just a few of the articles actually which have come out recently. There's also the LTV appearance in Lebanese TV, and also Alpha TV today from Cairo. So many of these news outlets, and there's many more actually, who have been featuring stories about Abu Sadiq and stories about the believers. This is just a few, how the Ahmadi religion of peace and light has been spreading, the message of Abu Sadiq, from whose peace it has been spreading.
And so far, as we can see, I mean, the magazine is jam-packed with stuff, and the layout is just so beautiful. The way that everything is just kind of pictured, and the wordings, and the very, very nice editorial approach is really captivating. It's really eye-opening for the people, and it really grabs you in. The next part, and I think you guys will know what I mean, because the color red is used a lot with the Catholics, and we have another segment of the book called "Believers in Rome Arrested for Holding Up New Pope Banner." And over here we can see some of the things in red to basically signify the theme of the article regarding what happened in the Vatican, where the believers went out to the Vatican holding up the banner that the new pope is here, and God has already chosen a new pope, and they're wearing these t-shirts, they're out there, and because of this, hours later, Pope Francis, the previous pope, died because of the believers chanting out La Bekia Abul Sadiq.
Yeah, and these believers, they went back after this happened for the event of the conclave. They went back to the Vatican and they held up the poster of Abu Sadiq, from whom is peace again, and they got arrested for that.
Yeah,
so it says here, one protester, Alexandra, he reported that the police said that the group have violated Italian laws by holding an unauthorized demonstration and distributing flyers without permission. The activists were photographed, warned, and effectively banned from the Vatican. So, these are the brothers who were there originally at the Vatican. They were the ones who held up the banners before.
Yeah, but it's kind of hypocritical that the Italian government or the government of Rome would ban people talking about religion. I mean, weren't they banned 2,000 years ago from the Roman Empire initially, where Christianity was deemed as a heretical belief and that they were performing cannibalism, even though that wasn't true? It's kind of weird how they talk about their history and talk about how oppressed they were as early Christians, and now they want to prevent people of other faiths to talk about their faiths. I find that unfair, and I find that very hypocritical.
It is very hypocritical.
But anyway, the believers, they were out in the Vatican, they did all this stuff, and it wasn't just the Vatican, but believers all around the world started to go to different parts of, especially in America, and different parts of Europe and Asia and Australia. Everybody volunteered to go out there by their own initiative on the same day to spread the word of the new pope, to spread the word of that there is no supremacy except the supremacy of God. And over here, we have a brother Dennison, who is out there, faith in action, spreading the good news and the good word. And these are the pictures of the other believers also spreading the word and the banner of the new pope.
Yeah, so this is all the believers going out for the new pope campaign. Yeah, this is amazing. It's all in different areas of the world. We've got France, Canada, Serbia, Spain, Sweden, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and beyond. This was something that happened all over the world, to be honest. There's more countries than were even shown here. And if we can go back to the faith in action one, we've just got another cross-section of showing us the missionary work that the believers have been doing, what's been going on, in Iran. We've got the missionary work continues in Iran despite the risk of arrests and enforced disappearance. Yeah, I mean, those guys are so brave.
Croatia.
In Croatia, the religion is spreading now in Croatia. We have this believer who's going out very diligently. The believers in Serbia, they continue the new Pope missionary efforts despite facing backlash from online Christian communities. In the United Kingdom, we have the brothers Hassan and Farhan, who have gone out they have extended their missionary efforts to the famous Speaker's Corner, where they engage in dialogue with many scholars. Actually, they've spoken to them. We've got Italy. The missionary team in Italy went viral shortly before their arrest. In Egyptians are distributing handwritten flyers following the arrest of 12 members of the faith to avoid police detention at print shops.
Yeah, because otherwise, if they go to the print shops and print out flyers now, and that's actually how the other 12 were arrested, because they were basically told, hey, these people, they printed out these things, and they were arrested, unfortunately. Now everybody's talking about us. Even the deputy Prime Minister of Italy. He actually made a Twitter post about us. And that's the next segment written by Brother Surmad. It's called Why Everyone's Suddenly Talking About Abu Sadiq, even the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the case. Everybody is talking about us. You know, there was a whole flood of articles, a whole flood of people on YouTube and on TikTok and Instagram. My God, name any social media platform and you'll find us there. And we became really viral the month before. And the effects of it is still happening to this day. And I think that small wave that took place, you know, even it was a great wave, but it's going to be small compared to what is going to come for sure in the future. Mark my words for that, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, this speech of Abu Sadiq from his piece, it went completely viral, and we saw so many influencers online talking about Abu Sadiq and making videos about him. And so online, this is sort of everywhere you went, you know.
Yeah, but we got a lot of hate for it, especially me and Alex, because we started tagging other Christian YouTubers who were talking bad about Abu Sadiq, and we made response videos responding to the misconceptions and oftentimes ignorant interpretations of Abu Sadiq's words in their own Bible, actually. And we really put a lot of these people in the corner, I suppose, because we didn't really hear a comprehensive response back. I remember that there was this. I remember that there was this one guy who we actually put up a challenge because he said that, when Jesus said, you are Peter, basically Simon Peter, and on this rock I shall build my church upon. He's like, no, he meant the rock that they were standing on, the land that they were standing on. Jesus is going to build the physical church. And if you remember, I basically put out that challenge to that YouTuber saying, well, if that's the case, if your interpretation is correct, that Jesus meant by that a literal church that he was going to build on that rock, well, then show me, where is that church that Jesus literally built? Yeah. And then he played that clip that I said on his own YouTube channel, and then he paused the video and then said, utter nonsense. I mean, yes, utter nonsense. You're the one who said it. He was the one who said it. I'm not saying it. I'm just paraphrasing. I was just saying what he was saying. Until this day, he's not been able to explain his interpretation or give an explanation or any evidence that his interpretation is correct. Where is that church that Jesus talked about?
Unfortunately, this is the condition of the people. You know, they're so confused about their religion and what the scriptures truly mean because they haven't been following that man who is appointed by God who can actually explain them to us. And anyway, let's come back to this because I think we have a caller on the line. Salaam alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
How can we help you?
Actually, I came up here a few times and I asked Mr. Hashim, but I've got something to, a question.
Sure, go ahead.
All right.
Yeah. So Abu Sadiq, he claims to be the Mahdi, yeah?
Oh, well, Sadiq is saying that he is the Mahdi. Yes, he is the Qa'im of the family of Muhammad.
Yeah, sure, brother, sure. But the thing is, he's speaking in English and he's a descendant of Prophet Muhammad.
Yes. And what is the problem with speaking English?
Because a lot of people cannot speak English and he's a descendant of Prophet Muhammad. He must speak Arabic.
Yeah, so there's no narration which says the Mahdi has to speak Arabic, and actually, the reason that Abu Sadiq from his piece, he does speak Arabic, but the reason that he's communicating to the people in English is because he's here for everyone, and English is the most widely spoken language of today. That is why God sent us a messenger who is speaking to us in English.
Actually, it says over here, approximately 1.5 billion people worldwide speak English, making it the most spoken language in the world. And actually, the Quran validates Abu Sadiq speaking English because the Quran basically states that it sends a messenger to the people speaking in the language of its people. So you had prophets that were in China that spoke Chinese. You had prophets that went to Germany who spoke German. You had prophets who were in the indigenous lands of the people speaking their indigenous mother tongue and mother language. So if the world savior is meant to come for the entire world, well, then he has to speak a common language that most people are able to speak. And that language, for the most part, is English. Many people speak English. The 1 billion people, it's their first language, but then you have many, many, many other people that have developed English as a second language.
But Arabic is an international language as well.
No,
Like,
Arabic is not really an international language. If you were to compare the English language to the Arabic language, or people who most people speak English compared to Arabic.
Most
actually,
countries of the world, if you go to them, the people there, they do speak English. You know, it's the most, like I said, widely spoken language in the world today. It's not that it's not that common, you know, that you go to many countries who are not Middle Eastern where the people do speak Arabic.
Yeah, and it says over here that at least, and it says over here, the total number of Arabic speakers worldwide reaches around 422 million people, or even less. So if you compare that to the English language, there are people who, by that number, 3 times as many people speak English than they do Arabic, actually. So yeah, to be a descendant of Prophet Muhammad speaking multiple languages is actually A-okay. You know, there are narrations that say that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also spoke different languages, or at least seemed to have spoken different languages. Some narrations even point out that he understood Ethiopian and that he even understood and spoke Hebrew, but his main language was Arabic. Why? Because he came to a people that spoke Arabic. So the same thing now we find today, that the Mahdi is sent to the world and most of the people of the world speak English. And actually there's not even a single hadith out there that says that the Mahdi, when he comes, he must only speak Arabic. Actually, I think that's contrary to a Mahdi, because how can people understand him if most of the people in the world speak English, and most people actually don't even speak the classical Quranic Fusha Arabic that many people want the Mahdi to speak.
Yeah, that's true. So what was the language that Prophet Adam spoke?
The language that Prophet Adam spoke, I don't think that's necessary, because just as the Quran said, we send a messenger speaking the language of its people. Yeah. So like I said earlier, Adam, maybe he spoke Arabic, as some narrations state, but is it the same Arabic as we have today? Because, by the way, if you study the Arabic language of today and yesterday, it's completely different. Completely different. Languages develop over time. And in the time of Abraham alayhi salam, I mean, they say at the very least, according to the Muslim consensus, is that the Arabic language really came from Ismail. You know, the Arabs were from Ismail. And as for the people who speak Hebrew, it came from Ishaq. So imagine Ishaq with all of the prophets that came from him, like Yaqub or Yusuf or Musa or Elias. All these guys, they spoke Hebrew. They didn't speak Arabic.
Yeah, and you know, it doesn't say anywhere that we should determine whether or not someone is appointed by God by the language they speak. We already know that the various prophets and messengers, they came with different languages. When Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family came with a different language to Jesus, is that a reason to disbelieve in him? But we know they were both prophets, so you know for sure it's not.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. And I heard like there was no languages at the time of Prophet Adam, because like languages came as what's called punishment. When the Namrud,
with the Tower of Babel, the languages were separated, they were scattered then. You know, before that, all as the story goes, all the languages, there was no different languages, basically. Everyone was speaking the same language. Yeah,
that's according to what the stories say. But yeah, I mean, I would not go as far as to say that Adam didn't speak a language, because the Quran actually shows Adam speaking and having conversations.
Oh yeah,
he
did speak.
But yeah, I mean, like whatever language it was, it doesn't really concern us. You know, Adam has come and gone maybe 10,000 years ago or so. But right now we're in the era of the Mahdi. You know, we understand that Prophet Adam existed, but I think the most important thing right now is the messenger of this day and age and who he is. Because as God says in the Quran, I'm going to place a Khalifat up on the earth. So God is always placing a caliph on the earth, and there must be a caliph in each day and age. So who is a caliph today? That is something that is very important for us to understand.
Yeah, true. What about reincarnation?
Yes, well, what about reincarnation?
I find it like, you know, so many Muslim groups, they don't believe in reincarnation. Only
Only a few people from the Muslim groups do,
It's
but
like-
I do have to say this, brother, is that when the Muslim says, and this is what I've encountered many a times when I talk about reincarnation with a Muslim, I find oftentimes that they say that we don't believe in reincarnation because it's kufr, right? They say it's disbelief. But then I ask, why is it disbelief? And they can't really give me a logical argument as to why it's disbelief. They just say, oh, it's an Eastern thought. Well, okay, I mean, Eastern thoughts are what? I mean, some Eastern thoughts say, well, you reap what you sow, which is something that the Quran and the Bible says. Some Eastern thoughts say, do to others what you want done on yourself. Well, that's what the Bible and the Quran says. So this idea is a false idea that reincarnation is not true because it's an Eastern thought. Because quite frankly, actually, if I wanted to, I could even pull up the Quran where it says in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat number, I think, 28 or 29, where it says that God basically says, how can you disbelieve in God when you are dead? Then God brings you to life. Then he'll cause you to die again and then bring you back to life. And then to him, you're going to return. That sounds like reincarnation. And there are hadiths from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam which confirms reincarnation, books that are way older than Bukhari, like Al-Haft al-Sharif that was written by Al-Mufaddal ibn Umar and his conversation with Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And you'll also find that this concept of reincarnation actually makes sense, because why? If we are to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of all things, is he not capable of bringing a person, his soul into a new body? I think that's very possible, because God's capable of all things.
Yeah, true. There was a question, I'm just trying to remember.
It's okay, take your time. But if you don't mind, if there's if there's no other questions that you have in mind, we can continue on with our show. But don't worry, we also have another show after this with Brother Hussam and Hussaman. Oh, actually, no, sorry, there is no show today. But yeah, you're more than welcome to write to us or email us, and we can answer your questions and hopefully guide you more
tomorrow.
to the truth.
Yeah, please feel free to do that. We'll call back tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No worries.
God bless you.
God bless you, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you, brother. Alaikum salam.
So there's a lot of information out there, guys, regarding our faith, and I'm glad that the brother came up and asked these questions, because they're very important questions, and it's important, especially from people coming from different schools of thought, to understand where it is that we're coming from. And for sure, anybody who wants to learn more, go and check out our website, the ahmadireligion.org. And obviously, once again, please print out or buy or download this amazing issue, the June issue of the Divine Just State, if you want to also learn more about our faith and keep up to date with what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the next, let's carry on going through the
where
magazine.
were we left off again?
So we were on
reality
page
check, right?
Yeah, so this is a reality check from Brother Nemo, who's really good at kind of giving us these pearls of wisdom,
Nemo always tends to do that, especially among brothers and sisters. He tends to many times in the morning drop pearls of wisdom upon us, which is very inspirational. And Nemo is one of the most inspirational people that I know.
Yeah, and this is something, if anyone who wants a really important, powerful message, go and read this one.
Yeah.
It's quite a long one, so we won't go through the whole thing. But yeah, his messages are extremely helpful, on your spiritual journey. Yeah. And so
the next one is really, really cool, because I always loved satire. I always loved this idea of funny conversations or things that basically showcases that something is wrong, but in a funny way, or in a way that basically proves that the other side is nonsensical. And and I'm talking about this a part of the Goal of the Wise. I mean, not the Goal of the Wise, the Divine Just State magazine, written by Brother Uner.
Yeah, this is called, an amazing article.
Yeah, Satire, a conversation between Jesus and Paul. And basically it's these extracts of parts of the Bible which contradict greatly between what Jesus is saying and what Paul is saying, and they both come into great conflicts, and it plays out as if they're having a conversation with one another. And I thought it was a very ingenious way to basically prove that Paul and Jesus are two different things.
It's very genius. Each statement in this conversation is something that Jesus really said, and each something is something which Paul really said, which directly contradicts what Jesus said. So it's an amazing article, and anyone who is questioning, whether Paul is someone that we should be listening to, someone that we should be following, they have to read this, because it's just throwing it in your face, that this is ridiculous that we're even thinking of listening to Paul. Because for sure, he everything that he said was different to what Jesus said. So it's an amazing article, and I think this was actually my favorite article from from the magazine, because the topic of Paul is something which has been coming up a lot.
And I think we even made a video about it too, right?
Yeah. But yeah, this is so many of the Christians, they believe that Paul is someone that we should follow. But if we really look into it, it's something that the belief in what he was saying is something that doesn't hold up under any scrutiny. If you just look into it a bit, you can see everything about him is in complete contradiction to Jesus. And then the next section is all of the new believers who have come in and pledged allegiance. Well, not all of them actually, but a couple of them who have come in and pledged allegiance. So these are all the new stories of interest, basically, who have pledged allegiance to Abu Sadiq, from whom is peace, from all of the different countries. So it's good to see all of these new faces for sure. And then, the next article is another really, really interesting one. So it's about Tiffany. Tiffany's the one who is in the videos, the majority of the videos in the Divine School of Mysteries with Abu Sadiq, from whom is peace. And it's called How a Devout Catholic Became a Believer in Abdullah Hashim. So this is just talking about her experience, and I think lots of people have wondered, how did a former Christian come to this religion? It's a really interesting story, because she was a very strong Christian before she came to this faith.
She was hardcore. She really believed that in the Trinity. She was a Catholic, and she stumbled upon this call, and she didn't transition from Catholicism to Islam and then to us. She jumped from Catholicism straight to the religion, the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. So props to her, and God bless her. She is one of the most faithful believers I know, very loyal, very knowledgeable, and very understanding, God bless her for all of the works and efforts that she has done with Abu Sadiq in the School of Divine Mysteries. And as you said, she is really the main hostess, you can say, of the School of Divine Mysteries, and her reactions to the teachings of Abu Sadiq, I think, mirrors the reactions that people have and the community members have when Abu Sadiq releases these great pearls of wisdom and pearls of knowledge.
So and I think a lot of people have been wondering about her story, so there it is. You can read it in the Divine Just State magazine, this issue. And the next article is another extremely important one. It's by Sister Noor, and it's called "Does the Mahdi Know He's the Mahdi?" So yes, this is another really important one. This is an extremely common argument that misconception that we hear. That people, they believe, they have this false belief from the scholars that the Mahdi, he doesn't know that he's the Mahdi, and she's got this narration which is where this belief is taken from. And actually, many people, they believe that there's a narration which explicitly says the Mahdi, he doesn't know that he's the Mahdi. But there isn't. This is taken from a narration which says that his matter will be rectified in a single night. So it doesn't say that explicitly that, and there's no reason to think that's what it means.
Clearly not.
And so the Mahdi, of course, he's the guided one. He's sent to guide the people. So for sure, he knows who he is. He knows more than the people. He knows better than the people who he is. Otherwise, it's a complete contradiction. It doesn't make any sense at all that he's the Mahdi if he doesn't even know who he is. And it's a bizarre belief, which the scholars, for sure, they'd like people to believe in, because it's for them, they don't want people to find the Mahdi. This is what the narrations from Muhammad and the family of Muhammad, peace be upon them, make clear. They're enemies of the Mahdi. They're evil. They're like the Pharisees in the time of Jesus. They're devils. They're destined for hellfire. So for sure, these people don't wish us to find the Mahdi, just like the Pharisees didn't wish us to find Jesus. They don't want us to find the true messenger from God, so they're not going to help us do that. So we can't rely on their weird interpretations of narrations and follow that. We have to follow what the narrations actually say about the Mahdi. So this article does a really good job at dispelling those misconceptions. It's a really, really important read as well.
Yeah, and this idea anyway of the Mahdi not knowing that he's a Mahdi. I remember Brother Nima made a small video where him and Hamid Reza are just walking, and then Nima is playing the part of a scholar and points out, "You're the Mahdi. You're the Mahdi." And it's because why? He's basically playing off this idea that the people really do think that the Mahdi has no idea that he's a Mahdi, but people will believe that he's a Mahdi, and he will do Mahdi-like things despite not knowing that he's the Mahdi. I mean, it's a weird argument. That's kind of like saying that Prophet Muhammad is a prophet, but he didn't know that he was a prophet. I mean, imagine having that kind of understanding. It just wouldn't make sense. Because clearly God, whenever he sends a prophet messenger, they come to the people saying, hey, I'm a messenger of God to you. You know, it's not like the people identified them. It's no, they had to identify themselves in front of the people.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next article is by Joe, Brother Joseph McGowan, and it's called The Long History of Fake News. And this is another really important article, but yeah, unfortunately I don't think we've got time to go into it really, but yeah, and the rest of the issue, you know, like every single article is really interesting and really important.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up, but I guess just one more article which I think we need to highlight is just the scandalous lives of God's prophets. I think this is a very important read, because anybody who says anything about us after reading this article, like, they have to exit out of all of the faiths that they believe in, because this article proves without a shadow of a doubt that any assumptions and false accusations or any weird ideas does not disprove any sort of dawah, does not disprove us. Otherwise, it would have to disprove Joseph and Jesus and Muhammad and all the other prophets that came before. But yeah, anyway, that's it. You know, the magazine is jam-packed with a lot of goodies, a lot of information. So go ahead and download it. Go ahead and buy it. And guys, spread the word about this magazine and call people to Abu Sadiq day in and day out. Anyway, God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.